We're in Austria, and there's only one question to answer. Is this Ocean ready to go toe-to-toe against the established and legacy automakers? Imagine this. You're in the market for a mid-size electric SUV and you immediately start shopping for a Hyundai, a Ford, or a Tesla. But what about something from an automaker that maybe you haven't heard of before? What about this 2023 Fisker Ocean? So you remember designer Henrik Fisker and the Fisker name from the Fisker Karma, which was the swoopy luxury plug-in sedan from 2008. Since then, Fisker has started a new company called Fisker Inc., and this Ocean is its first production car. Now, size-wise, it's about a Model Y and Ioniq 5, Mach-E, that kind of dimension. Design-wise, it is pretty cool. I mean, it's blocky and chunky in all the right ways. Actually, it looks kind of like a Range Rover, and that ain't no bad thing. The front is sleek and menacing, and the back has some of the thinnest taillights I have ever seen. But what's really cool is this solar roof. Under ideal conditions, Fisker says that it'll return up to 1,500 miles of driving range a year. So the big thing you'll notice about this interior is the massive 17.1-inch digital display, which swivels. You remember the LG VX9400 TV phone from 2007? This is like that, so I guess what's old is new again. But I'm very happy to see that there are indeed hard buttons for the climate and the radio. That's very nice. But what is cool about this interior is its dedication to ethically sourced and sustainable materials. The seat leathers, for example, are made from recycled bottles and fibers. The carpets are made from recycled post-industrial waste. It's very thoughtful, this whole thing. On top of all of that, the rear seat is extremely spacious. The trunk is roomy, so this thing will seat 4 people and all their stuff, no problem. Finally, I do want to show you the California mode, which drops all of the windows at the touch of one button. So today, Fisker has put us in the Ocean Extreme trim, which is one of the top trims, and it starts around $70,000 after destination. It has dual motor, all-wheel drive, and has an EPA estimated range of about 360 miles, so pretty good. In Boost mode, which is limited to 500 activations, you make 564 horsepower and 543 pound-feet of torque. Off Boost mode, which is how this thing will be spending most of its time, that number drops to 468 horsepower and 514 pound-feet of torque. Do not worry though, that is still all very usable because the acceleration is definitely there. You can pass, merge, do whatever. It's an electric car, you know? All the torque down low, not a problem. In fact, one of the things I really do like about it is the acceleration, but you know, saying an electric car accelerates well is like saying that, you know, it's nice when the sun is out. I like that the steering is actually pretty heavy. You kind of think, oh, is there such thing as steering that's too heavy? Yeah, there is such thing, but in this case, it adds a bit of heft to the driving experience, which is nice. Also, because this thing is on steel springs, it doesn't ride as pillowy as something that has air suspension. However, it is still very well damped and things aren't crashy. It is very pliant and pleasant. I have it on the most aggressive regenerative braking setting, and one pedal driving is definitely possible. And even then, the switch between regenerative braking and friction braking is very seamless, so you can actually tell the difference. And even though the Ocean is a big car, it does feel smaller around you. That's a cliche I think you hear a lot, but in this case, I think it is well applied. Things I don't love as much about the Ocean, well, as striking as it looks from the outside, that very sleek profile kind of results in not so great rear visibility. The pillars are really thick and that rear window is pretty tiny. However, there is a digital rearview mirror here, so that probably solves that problem. I like a regular mirror though, so I'm going to default to that. There's also something that is a little strange with the brake pedal. Even though the regenerative braking is very smooth, the action of the brake pedal itself has a lot of play at the top of the pedal, and the braking action doesn't really feel like it starts happening until you've pressed the pedal down a little longer. So that makes the braking a little confusing to begin with and takes a little time to get used to. Similarly, the steering feel, the actual communication is kind of numb. So in the really tight turns, it is a little difficult to really feel out which way the car is pointing. But again, this is a family car. It is not a corner carving sports car, so something like that probably doesn't matter as much. And finally, This big infotainment screen, this big swiveling screen, very, very cool in design, not knocking that. What I do dislike is the fact that you can't change the vent direction with your fingers. You have to do it through the touch screen. You know, I don't like looking at a screen when I'm driving, and right now the vents are pointing at my face. Maybe later I want them to point somewhere else. I have to navigate a touch screen and manually use the touch screen to change the vent direction. Whereas, I don't know, there was nothing wrong with just changing the vent by yourself. As EV startups like Tesla, Lucid, and Rivian know, building cars is hard. So it's healthy to regard everything with a little skepticism, especially the first car coming from a startup. Now, the Fisker Ocean is a solid first crack. There are just a couple of things about it that feel like it should have been left in the oven a little longer. For example, it didn't always go into drive right out of park immediately. Sometimes the parking brake didn't engage automatically after being put in drive. And sometimes to get California mode going, we had to click the button a bunch of times before it actually activated. And one time it activated by itself without anybody clicking a button at all. There are also a few questions that still need answering, such as how the cars deliver on real-world range as opposed to estimated range, whether the base version will indeed be sold for under $40,000, and how buggy or unbuggy the software will be at launch. All that being said, though, these are very small growing pains in the face of something that today's preview showed off is well-built, well put together, has nice fit and finish, and drives just as well as the rest of them.